Hello and welcome to another update video about Solana. Solana also broke out of this descending wedge that we had on the chart. Very interesting. So it broke out of the descending wedge. It retested that wedge from above. It, by the way, also moved above that previous rejection point here and here at $91, $92. And it currently seems to be retesting that previous rejection point. Yeah. So this previous high is very important to retest from above. It's currently doing that. What I'm missing a little bit is the volume. You can see how the volume decreased. We need that volume, in my opinion, to really move higher and have a valid breakout. However, we're currently doing the retesting. So if we can hold above the current level, that is very positive. And I think we can move up from here to $105. That would be the next target. If we cannot hold the current level of 91.50, I think we might do something that some other cryptos did before, just sort of trailing along on this here on this descending wedge, descending trend line here, so something like that. Yeah, before we then eventually could move up. That's just what it is. We need to hold this level. That's a very important one. Yeah, otherwise you're making basically you're at risk making a lower low and again then a lower high. But the next target would be in this uptrend here, that $105 level. And if we break above that, then the $122. The $122 would also be the target of that wedge, because what are you doing with that wedge pattern? Actually, you are, let me just go to the daily. If you break out of these, of this wedge, the target of that wedge is usually the beginning of that wedge. Yeah. So this would be that $122 level, that wick up here, okay? There is an argument that you maybe haven't broken out of the wedge. You could make that, because on the 4-hour chart here, if you use the candle or closed candles, you have to move it up a little bit, like that a little bit, yeah? So in that, if you draw it like that, you're actually still in the wedge. However, if I go to the daily chart, which is actually more meaningful, and I don't use the wicks, I only use the closed candle bodies, then we have broken out. Yeah, so again, there's a bit of subjectivity here going on, and you need to, you need to make the decision. At the moment, because we haven't seen the volume yet, again, that is a bit of a tricky bit. We want to see the volume. Can we go up further from here? Yes, surely we can. That would then be a short-term uptrend, and we could draw a trend line. And that is, if you have that short-term perspective, you need to work with trend lines, moving averages, and so on. So in my opinion, as long as we are holding above this trend line, we can move further. If you break, as I said, if you break below that 91.50 level, that would also be a break below that trend line, then you are risking to, invalidate that immediate uptrend. At the moment, if we are moving on this trend line to the upside, it will take us to $105. Does that mean we've already seen the low and we are not going to go any lower? No, of course not, because we are not in a confirmed uptrend yet. All that we are doing currently is a breakout, a potential breakout out of a descending wedge, and we're moving up. But we also moved up here from that wave 3 to that wave 4, and in that move up we even made 50%. Yeah. In this move up here from the 24th of Feb all the way to the 4th of March, we made 35%. What are we doing now? We've only just made 20%, and everybody's getting already super bullish. So just to keep that in mind, okay? Just to keep that in mind. Objectively, there is no sign yet that is telling us that we are already starting to go crazy and we're going to go back in a bull market, okay? It's nice to see some upside, but we have to be honest that all we're doing at the moment, we're still making a lower high here at the moment, yeah? So until we break at least that previous high, so to break a structure, you need to make a higher low and a higher high, yeah? So to break a downtrending structure, you need two things, a higher high and a higher low. At the moment, yes, we've seen here a higher low compared to the previous one, but what we haven't seen yet is a higher high. So we wanna see that. And you get that if you break above $105. So just to make that very clear. This purple box, by the way, is the support box ranging from $75 to $81. This box for now did hold. And if you lose that, then you're going to go very quickly, in my opinion, into that green target area here between $30 and $55. That is still realistic, especially the $55 level from my point of view is still very realistic. But to do that, we probably need some Bitcoin movement to the downside, and Solana would need to lose that $75 level. Does the price need to get there? No, it doesn't, because Solana already fulfilled the minimum requirements for the correction. I did say to you already that we already came into my original target area. We already came below $100 and we already made a lower low compared to that wave A. From that point of view, Solana did what it needed to do to complete the correction, which doesn't mean there is not further downside. Yes, further downside potential is possible still. And at the moment, we cannot really see any confirmation of a sustainable uptrend yet. Yeah, all we see here is currently a little bit of upside, which is nice. But again, we need to see that higher high, and we need to see a higher high here above $120 as well. Yeah, so until that's the case, I really remain skeptical about this uptrend, which doesn't mean that I didn't already buy. Everybody who's been following me on Discord knows about my buy orders and knows that I bought here somewhere in the region below $90. That was one of my buy orders. But I also bought before. So I have some positions that are at a loss, which is fine, you know, because I know, or at least I don't know, but with a very high probability, we're going to see that at least $450 level for Solana in the next major wave up. So I'm absolutely relaxed about that. Yeah, I'm happy to take a temporary loss. We are in a very volatile space. We are in a very risky market here with the crypto market, and we just have to live with temporary downside. That's just part of the game, and we have to accept that. And one of the problems that many people have is they don't accept it. They panic sell, and I think that is sometimes what I read in the comments, that people have panic sold. I had a few comments about that in the last few days, where some people actually panic sold when the price dropped, and then they bought back higher, which is not at all what I advocate. That's not at all what I talk about here. It is exactly the opposite, actually, what I talk about. I talk about at the current price levels just to accumulate. There's no reason at the moment to buy and sell, in my opinion. Everybody, if you want to do a short-term trade, that's fine. From my point of view, because the potential to the upside, I mean, we're talking here about a 5 to 10x, maybe more likely a 10x for Solana as well. Why panic sell now? I mean, there are people who do that apparently, and I just try to help you to not make these mistakes, okay? Of course, only you can decide if you buy and sell, but it just, yeah. It's just the emotion, it's fear and greed. Just be careful about that, okay? And just start to watch these videos and become patient. That's what we need to be. Okay, so EMA ribbon again. As long as we are above this EMA ribbon, we are in an uptrend. We had a long signal here again for our chart. So again, it's a very useful indicator. And again, everybody who's looking for that indicator, just go to TradingView, just go to indicators, just type in EMA ribbon. It's the first one from the top that I'm using here. Works quite well. EMA ribbon, you get a long signal when these indicators or these EMAs cross to the upside. You get a long signal, and it's working oftentimes quite well. But as always, don't use just one indicator, use a variety of indicators. So again, as long as you are above that, including this ascending trend line, then you are in a temporary uptrend and you can climb higher. If you want to use that, if you want to have that short-term view, then of course. So if I tell you now that I think we could, if we retest that, we could move higher, yes, but also always keep in mind that trend line. Of course, things can shift and change, and I don't know what happens in an hour. That's basically the absolute short-term view, that I don't know what happens in an hour. Yeah, I can only tell you if we get the additional volume, there's a good chance we get to that level. But if in that hour we break that trend line to the downside and someone entered a long position here, normally as a trader you would probably exit that position. Yeah. So again, it's all just a momentary. It's always what I see in the moment. I can't tell you what happens in an hour or two if things change on the chart. 8-hour chart, probably also above the EMA ribbon already. Yeah, we just now get a long signal, which is nice, which should really give that a little bit of upside, which is good as well. We're probably not above the EMA ribbon on the daily, no. So that's another confirmation. Yeah, if we move above the EMA ribbon on the daily, because we haven't moved above that EMA ribbon on the daily since the beginning of the downtrend, I think. Only here there was a bit of a fake out, 27th of December. But it is again another factor, and we can only add these factors together. We need to use various indicators, and if you move above the EMA ribbon on the daily, that is quite a substantial signal, and we're not there yet. Okay, So this is something that I use as well, quite useful. Here on the, if we take a look on the daily, also the Bollinger Bands, yeah, there is still space. We're now above the middle line, this moving average here on the Bollinger Bands. So we are in that upper half, okay, on the daily, and there is still scope for further upside. So until you reach those Bollinger Band, the upper band, that will be at $100. So maybe, to correct myself a little bit, maybe before we actually get to that $105 level, where you actually have just a wick here on the daily to the upside, maybe the first target would be that $100 level. There's also the psychological level, that's the upper band of the Bollinger Bands, and that is where here at $100 on the 2nd of March, the daily candles closed. So probably that would be rather the more realistic first next target, and we need to break above that level also to get some further confirmation. So generally starting to look interesting, but as I said, we've only have a bit of breathing at the moment. Yeah, we're breathing in a little bit, moving up a little bit. In the end, just making at the moment a lower high. We need to get more upside to get a confirmation about a beginning uptrend. We have a short-term uptrend. Yes, indeed, we are above the EMA ribbon. That's nice on the 4-hour and the 8-hour chart, not on the daily yet. And there is still further potential for downside. That risk is still there and still very, very realistic at the moment. And as we speak, we're actually breaking below that 91.50 level. So there you go. That is why it is so important if you have a short-term perspective to use trend lines as well. But again, if we're, for example, on the 4-hour chart, as long as that 4-hour candle isn't closed yet, and we're still above that trend line. So from that point of view, not a big problem yet. Good. That's my view on Solana. Hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and if you really like the content, then check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.